All right, so in the 18th century, in the 1700s, we looked at women in the colonial period and we looked at that good wife, right? We had Anne Bradstreet as our good wife. And then we saw the women that did not fit that good wife mold, right? We had Anne Hutchinson, we had women who are accused of witches. So this lecture, Marginalized Women, is similar to that, right? So the lecture you looked at just before was called Domesticity. That was the ideal woman of the 19th century. And it's difficult to be the ideal, which is why women are suffering from hysteria, as you saw in the last lecture. And so this lecture is all the women that, not all the women, there's a whole bunch more, but in this lecture we're going to focus on 5 different groups of women that aren't going to fit that ideal. Now you're the real group of women that don't get access to that ideal are enslaved women, and you're looking at Harriet Tubman, her story as a means to get to the women that don't get access to that ideal. And then and in another lecture we're going to talk about women and the westward movement of women, because they're also going to be denied that ideal. But in this lecture we're going to talk about women who serve as domestic servants. They don't have access to the call to domesticity. We're going to talk about women who work in mills, in factories. These are the Lowell Mill girls. We're going to look at women who are novelists, who write books. There's a huge genre of fiction in the 19th century called sentimental novels, so we're going to look at those. We're also going to talk about women who are prostitutes. You've got a great document that looks at that, the history of prostitution, and we'll try to unpack that a little bit more and see what that tells us. And then finally, we want to talk about women who don't get married, or who, when they do marry, they clearly want to be married to somebody else. So these are the 5 groups of women that we're going to look at in this lecture that are like outside that ideal. And sometimes students perceive some of these professions as like a possibility for independence, but as you'll see with prostitution, there's no independence there. And these women novelists, these women working in mills, these are temporary stopgap measures, either because they're desperate or because they haven't gotten married yet. I mean, really what women need to do if they want to survive in the 19th century is get married. And again, we'll make that point over the course of the lecture too. All right, take care.